Hi, boys and girls. Well, here we are at part two of Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, our folk tale from Zimbabwe. I hope that you remember that a folk tale is a story that's told in the spoken word from generation to generation. That means long time ago, before people could read and write, they would tell stories to their children, and then their children would tell it to their children, and so on and so forth. And it's only since modern times that we can write these stories down. I also hope that you remember that a folk tale is a story that teaches a lesson. So I wonder what lesson we're supposed to learn in this story. All right, let's continue. Let's find out what's going to happen with Manyara. You may remember that she stole out of her village in secret because she wanted to beat Nyasha to get to the king. All right, let's find out what happens. After traveling what seemed to be a great distance, Manyara came to a small clearing. There, silhouetted against the moonlight, was an old woman seated on a large stone. The old woman spoke. "I will give you some advice, Manyara. Soon after you pass the place where two paths cross, you will see a grove of trees. They will laugh at you. You must not laugh in return. Later, you will meet a man with his head under his arm. You must be polite to him." "How do you know my name? How dare you advise your future queen? Stand aside, you ugly old woman," Manyara scolded, and then rushed on her way without looking back. Just as the old woman had foretold, Manyara came to a grove of trees, and they did indeed seem to be laughing at her. "I must be calm," Manyara thought. "I will not be frightened." She looked up at the trees and laughed out loud. "I laugh at you, trees," she shouted, and she hurried on. It was not yet dawn when Manyara heard the sound of rushing water. The river must be up ahead, she thought. The great city is just on the other side. But there, on the rise, she saw a man with his head in his hand, tucked under his arm. Manyara ran past him without speaking. "A queen acknowledges only those who please her," she said to herself. "I will be queen. I will be queen," she chanted as she hurried on toward the city. Nyasha woke at the first light of dawn. As she put on her finest garments, she thought how her life might be changed forever beyond this day. "I'd much prefer to live here," she admitted to herself. "I'd hate to leave this village and never see my father or sing to little Nyoka again." Her thoughts were interrupted by loud shouts and a commotion from the wedding party assembled outside. Manyara was missing. Everyone bustled about, searching and calling for her. When they found her footprints on the path that led to the city, they decided to go on as planned. As the wedding party moved through the forest, brightly plumed birds darted about in the cool green shadows beneath the trees. Though anxious about her sister, Nyasha was soon filled with excitement about all there was to see. They were deep in the forest when she saw the small boy standing by the side of the path. "You must be hungry," she said, and handed him a yam she brought for her lunch. The boy smiled and disappeared as quietly as he had come. Later, as they were approaching the place where the two paths crossed, the old woman appeared and silently pointed the way to the city. Nyasha thanked her and gave her a small pouch filled with sunflower seeds. The sun was high in the sky when the party came to the grove of towering trees. Their uppermost branches seemed to bow down to Nyasha as she passed beneath them. At last, someone announced that they were near their destination. Nyasha ran ahead and topped the rise before the others could catch up with her. She stood transfixed at her first sight of the city. "Oh, my father," she called, A great spirit must stand guard here. Just look at what lies before us. I never in all my life dreamed there could be anything so beautiful. Arm in arm, Nyasha and her father descended the hill, crossed the river, and approached the city gate. Just as they entered through the great doors, the air was rent by piercing cries, and Manyara ran wildly out of a chamber at the center of the enclosure. When she saw Nyasha, she fell upon her, sobbing. "Do not go to the king, my sister. Oh, please, father, do not let her go," she cried hysterically. "There's a great monster there, a snake with 5 heads. He said that he knew all my faults and that I displeased him. He would have swallowed me alive if I had not run. Oh, my sister, please do not go inside that place." It frightened Nyasha to see her sister so upset, but leaving her father to comfort Manyara, she bravely made her way to the chamber and opened the door. On the seat of the great chief's stool lay the little garden snake. Nyasha laughed with relief and joy. "My little friend," she exclaimed, "it's such a pleasure to see you, but why are you here?" "I am the king," Nyoka replied. And there, before Nyasha's eyes, the garden snake changed shape. "I am the king. I am also the hungry boy with whom you shared a yam in the forest, and the old woman to whom you made a gift of sunflower seeds. But you know me best as Nyoka. Because I have been all these, I know you to be the most worthy and most beautiful daughter in the land. It would make me very happy if you would be my wife." And so it was, a long time ago, Nyasha agreed to be married. The king's mother and sisters took Nyasha to their house, and the wedding preparations began. The best weavers in the land laid out their finest cloth for her wedding garments. Villagers from all around were invited to the celebration, and a great feast was held. Nyasha prepared the bread for the wedding from the millet that had been brought from her village. Mufaro proclaimed to all who could hear him that he was the happiest father in all the land, for he was blessed with 2 beautiful and worthy daughters, Nyasha the queen and Manyara, a servant in the queen's household. All right, boys and girls, that's our story. That's our folk tale. So, did any of you notice that this story is similar to another popular story? What story is that, do you think? And then, did anybody guess what the lesson of this story is? What do you think we're supposed to learn from Mufaro's beautiful daughters?